this bonus episode of the podcast, we get involved with a debate which British football fans have been arguing about for decades. If Celtic and Rangers were in the English Premier League, how would they perform? Would they be top 6 teams? Top 10? Would they finish in the bottom half? Or would they even avoid relegation? So sit back, relax, crack open a cold one, and welcome to 4 Mags, 1 Toffee, Extra Time.
Exactly. Speaking of frauds, should we talk about Celtic and Rangers in the Scottish League? Because the debate came out last week, obviously. I've lost Dale there. Dale's fucking gone. But the debate came out about the Scottish League, and I mean, we won't even get into the heat that the Scottish League are in at the moment. Nicola Sturgeon absolutely fuming with the whole of the Scottish League at the moment. That's a conversation for another day. The debate came up that if Celtic and Rangers were ever to come into the top 6, or the Premier League rather, that they'd be top 6 teams. I don't agree. I don't know how you feel. It's been pretty much split down the middle, to be honest. All of social media, I've seen a lot of people saying, yeah, they'd be absolutely massive given the money from the Premier League and the transfers that they could make and the players and the managers that they could attract because they're in the Premier League, the biggest league in the world, arguably. And then there's how I think, and a lot of people agree with me, which is they're just not as big as their history is, or as wonderful as their history is. They're just not at that level anymore. They're not attracting those sorts of players anymore. You don't get the likes of your Ronaldos and your Messis and that ilk wanting to go and play for Celtic and Rangers. And I just don't think they'd ever crack top 10, let alone the top 6. Interesting debate. I know you boys all think different things as well. Danny, you had quite a strong opinion about this. I'll start with you. You think they will be top 6 teams? Tell us why, mate.
No, I didn't say top 6. Not straight away, anyway. But I disagree with people saying that Celtic would go down. It's hard to say on paper because we made the argument the other week about Arsenal losing to Aston Villa and then it went and won the FA Cup. It's hard to say what a game would be without seeing it played out. But I genuinely believe that Celtic would be solid mid-table, maybe even breaking the top 10 in the first season in the Premier League. And then I completely agree with what a lot of people were saying on Twitter was if they get English Premier League money, that is huge for them. But that is all conditional on fans being back in the stadium. Because there's something about going up to Scotland, going up to Glasgow and going playing Celtic away that knocks the stuffing out of some teams. And we see it in the Champions League. We see it a lot in the Champions League. And it's a shame. The quality kind of shows through that they rarely make it out of the group stages. But I don't think anyone below Arsenal in the league would make it through the group stage of the Champions League. Like, if you're talking where they would finish in a league, would Southampton go up to Celtic and go and get a result? Probably not. Would Everton go and get a result? Probably not. With Newcastle? Definitely not. I genuinely believe that Celtic would be a top, probably 10th team, and then move up. As a Rangers, I mean, they've not won a league in 10 years. Like, Celtic could go, of course, for the 10th league title.
Yeah.
It says a lot. And they are the second best team in Scotland. So I couldn't imagine... I mean, Rangers got embarrassed even out in the Europa League, didn't they? They've really been showing up. But do I think they're any worse than Aston Villa? Probably not. So no, I think if they were both put in the Premier League, they'd both survive. I think Celtic would do a hell of a lot better than Rangers. But it's all hypothetical, and I'd love to see it one day. I really would. I've been saying it for years. That league, Celtic are too good for that league. I'd love to see where they come up in England.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just going to say, the way I see with those two clubs is if you take out of the equation the England-Scotland border and you incorporate, and I know there's going to be a lot of Scottish people who are going to hate me saying this, just incorporate Glasgow into England as a city. As a population, it's up there and not far off Manchester. Certainly bigger than places like Leicester, Newcastle. So as a city, as a population, as a base of fans in the city alone, they're a very big club and are bigger than a lot of Premier League clubs. Now, what that means is, in the grand scheme of things, is that they would likely then have a bigger pull for players wanting to come and play for them. Now, all it would take, I think, is for them to get a big manager. No disrespect to Neil Lennon, who never seems to leave, no matter how many times he goes and comes back. But he's if they're going to want to then go and compete, they would have to be looking at someone that would take them forward. So if you imagine
Brendan Rodgers.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then he went to Leicester. But if you then look at them and sort of say, right, well, Glasgow, now in the Premier League, they've got Maurizio Pochettino as their manager. They're a big club. They've got a lot of fans across the world. They're now getting Premier League money, Premier League TV rights. They're signing £150 million worth of players. I think they do get into top six, potentially. They're better than Arsenal with that scenario. They're better than Spurs with that scenario. Better than the likes of Leicester, Wolves coming up. I think that then in that particular moment, Man United, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea are probably the only clubs better than them in the Premier League. And as for...
It would depend what kind of manager they get and how they spend the money, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Because Celtic have never had that kind of money. And we've seen it take City's first takeover. Sorry to put in there. City's first takeover, where they spent a fuck ton of money and bought really, really badly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. You're completely right. They need a big manager, and a manager that knows what to do with money as well, I think, is very key. I think if you give Neil Lennon 150 million, he'd spunk it all.
Yeah.
Speaking of clubs who spend too much money on terrible players, our resident Toffee's just entered the chat. Josh.
It's funny you should say that and bring me in there, because when you were saying about clubs spending an awful lot of money on shit players, I did think automatically about Everton.
Well,
Dale and Josh. Go on, Lee. What are you saying, mate?
I was just going to say, you won't have liked what I was going to say then a minute ago, because I was saying if obviously Glasgow came into the Premier League, then you'd have a situation where Celtic would be the Liverpool and Rangers would end up being the Everton of the city.
Well, you've got a point, really. You know, Rangers are the second club in the city, aren't they? So,
well,
it's facts are facts.
Could they displace them, though?
No.
Well, hang on. Haven't Rangers won more trophies? Am I just making that up?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I just know that Celtic have won the last 9.
Because no one gives a fuck, that's why.
Yeah, I was going to say, couldn't give 2 shits.
Because I've seen Dale. I've not gone to Dale on purpose. Because I've seen him looking at Danny and Lee saying, they'll be top 16. And I know Dale. I've known Dale for a long time. And I can see his face. And I know he's thinking, fucking bollocks.
I mean,
hey, I'm not saying Celtic are a top 6 team. I'm saying Celtic are a top 10 team. Let's clear that up right now.
I mean, I was just listening there, and they're dreaming up of these scenarios of shit. They've got Pochettino as a manager. They've got fucking 700 million to spend. Like, you know, I'm just like, I thought,
I'm still living the dream with Scott Brown in midfield.
If we're going off like the here and now, top 6, no. Top 10, I could probably agree with Danny, maybe with Celtic, possibly.
10th.
But
10th, yeah.
Great.
That's my argument. 10th, yeah.
Yeah.
10th.
Yeah.
Great. Mid-table. Par.
But it's like you look at the Scottish League. They play each other every pissing 3 weeks. You know, it's there's about fucking 3 teams in there. So
and one of the teams are fucking Farmers.
You know, and to do it over a 38 game, whatever it is, 38 game season,
Yeah.
Top 6, no chance. Absolutely fucking no chance. And then, if you want to discuss about the potential money that they'll get from the Premier League or whatever, but, all right, a team from London makes a bid, and a team from, Scotland, Celtic and Rangers for a player, where's the player really want to go?
You say that, but any player that moves to Celtic is guaranteed Champions League football every year, which I don't think should continue. I think they should fuck the Champions League place off.
Are they?
Why are they getting?
Are they? Because Celtic can't even fucking qualify half the time.
Yeah. I don't know why they're getting that still.
Well, they've still got the qualifications in it. It's not like it's an automatic spot. They still have to qualify.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only like what they're basically equivalent to is 4th in the English league.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I think they come in a round earlier, don't they? I think they have one more qualifier, and then like Chelsea will join Celtic in the 3rd round qualifying potentially.
Yeah.
Can't remember the specifics.
Celtic are playing a qualifier before we even know who the winner of this year's fucking Champions League is.
Yeah, they've got like a 380-day season or something, haven't they? Longer than a year, every year. Wow.
They'll end up going to Wales and playing TNS.
The new Saints. Do you know what? I was talking about this last night, because I had a mate that played for what they called? Fucking AFC Newtown in Wales. They won the Welsh Premier a few years ago when he played for them. And they got through, and I think it was Valletta that they played in their first Europa League qualifying round, and they beat them, and they went through to play FC Copenhagen. And I thought they drew the first leg, but I was looking earlier and they didn't. I think they lost 2-1 or 2-0, and then they got beat 3-1 in the second leg. But
them.
Yeah, but still, play for Welsh Premier. You can say that he played Copenhagen home and away in the European tie. That's pretty sick, that. And how
Is that not the lad that went and joined the mighty Stockport County after it?
Yeah, and he seems to have gone downhill from leaving Stockport.
It's just what happens when players leave county. It's the height of a lot of players' careers.
Yeah,
downhill from playing for Stockport. What's that? An office job?
No, well, he actually got his
He
first.
rolled down the hill and ended up in the McDonald's.
Yeah. No, he got his first ever professional contract playing for Morecambe League 2. And they just didn't play him. And then he went to Wrexham on loan, played at Wrexham, and he's just signed for AFC Telford, who are national.
Oh, that is a step down.
Yeah, so they're pushing for promotion, I think, to get into the National League, I think so.
Speaking of a step down, Josh, mate, in all seriousness, where do you think Celtic and Rangers would finish in the Premier League?
I think they'd avoid relegation. It's got to be somewhere between 10th and 17th. I don't think they're finishing above the top, like in the top half of the table. Celtic, out of the two of them, it's obvious, but Celtic would have the better run. I think if they were going to push for a spot above 10th, it would be Celtic. I don't think they would finish any higher than 9th. If they had a good season, it would be like 9th. I just honestly can't see them doing any better than that. The money that they would get from finishing in that sort of position would help them over, say, 5-6 years. If they came in with the squad they've got now, and then the money that they accumulate from TV rights, etc., and the position they finish in the league, they might then progress, maybe push a little bit better. But current squads, no chance. They're teams of maybe 1 or 2 very good players that could make it in the Premier League. Like, you look at Tierney moving to Arsenal, Henrik Larsson of the past, outstanding in that league. Did it for United as well. So, there are a couple of standout players. Looking at the current squads, it's still the same now. They've got 1 or maybe 2 very good players. The rest of them are good enough for that league. Certainly not the Premier League. Maybe Championship.
Getting back to the conversation, we're just saying then about players like Van Dijk and players like Elk and stuff. I just feel like Celtic have got to this stage now, and I'm not going to include Rangers because Rangers have had their troubles and they're just not the team that they were of the past. on the way back, but obviously they're not on the status and the level of Celtic at the moment. I just feel like good top players go to Celtic for maybe a season or two. And we saw it with Dembele as well, didn't we? It's like a fucking Ponting's holiday camp. You go for a little bit. It's a bit of a good time. Like, I'll play for Celtic for a little bit. Glasgow, nice city. And then you just fuck off to a better team. Like, they're not keeping good players around, are they?
But like Lee said, like it's guaranteed Champions League for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're going there to put yourself in the shop window for better teams. Yeah. They are a feeder club in a respect, and that comes down to the money in the Scottish League not being there because, let's be honest, it's a shite league. No one's watching it.
No.
If it got cancelled because that Celtic player went away and the Aberdeen lads went away, would anyone be asked? Probably not.
The old firm derby's all you watch, isn't it?
It is, but even that's not as great as it used to be all them years ago. Scott Brown's got no one to fucking crunch anymore.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would change if they were in the English League. I feel like they'd be, by losing the Champions League but getting Premier League money and exposure, I feel like that'd be a trade-off for players that they'd be willing to take. And I don't know, I think it'd make a very interesting dynamic, but it's never going to happen, is it? Let's be honest, because the Scottish FA are never going to want to lose their prized possession.
It's Celtic and Rangers as well, though, because it's a bit like us five rocking up to a park for a five-a-side game against a bunch of fucking 14-year-olds. Like, that's what they do every week. They don't want to step outside of the comfort zone, and they don't want to go and challenge themselves against a team. They know for a fact it's not going to be easy in the Premier League. Celtic especially, they know for a fact they're going to get in the Premier League. Josh, you hit the nail on, 5-6 years it'd probably take for them with payments, money, settling time, like just building up a squad capable of challenging for maybe like a European spot, top six or something.
They'd go into the league system. They wouldn't go straight into the Premier League either. They couldn't.
No, that's unfair on the other teams.
Exactly.
I know, but
fuck the other teams.
Fuck the other teams, because I mean, Celtic and Rangers in it. Who else is there? Like the best of the rest is probably what Hibs, Aberdeen, someone like that. You can get to fucking go in League Two. Like, no one cares.
Well, it was
have a season. Have a season where we have 22 teams in the Premier League, and 5 get relegated, and then 3 come up. So it bounces out to 20. So let 2 of them come up.
Yeah, I think the thing is though, you think about it like, could it happen? But then somewhere along the line, Swansea and Cardiff sneak their way.
Yeah, see, that's the argument, isn't it?
So how have they got to their biggest teams in? Because think about it, if Swansea and Cardiff were in the Welsh Premier, they would be the Celtic and Rangers of the Welsh Premier. So
100%.
Somewhere along the line, they got into the Premier League somehow. So
because they've got ambition. They've got ambition. That's what it is. That's all it boils down to. If Celtic and Rangers really wanted to play in the Premier League against the best, some of the best clubs in the world, they'd push it and they'd do it and they'd find a way to get into the Premier League.
I'm pretty sure there's a bit more to it than that. Hey lads, we really fancy the Premier League this year. Let's go and play in England.
Well, it's there because if Celtic and Rangers turn around tomorrow and said, we don't want to fucking be part of this, I know there's a lot more legal bullshit aside from this. It's not as simple as this. But case in point, just make an example and speaking hypothetical. If Celtic and Rangers turn around tomorrow and said, we're disbanding, we don't want to do the Scottish League bollocks anymore, we're going to become FC Celtic and FC Rangers. We're exactly the same club. We've got exactly the same players. We've got the same manager. We've got the same infrastructure. We've got the same staff. We're going in the English leagues. That's it. And I think Celtic maybe has struggled a little bit with it, especially the fans. They've won 9 league titles in a row. They've just done the treble. When we went Glasgow in May, I had a Celtic fan who was just like, oh mate, we've just done the fucking treble, and it's absolutely spectacular. I'm just like, mate, it's fucking bollocks. There's no one else.
Yeah,
no one else in your league. It just, Rangers are a bit more, because they've been through the hardships that they've been through recently, and they've had to go through the league system because of how they were penalised. I think they'd probably be a bit more softer in their stance to getting put in at the bottom level and working their way back up to the Premier League. I think Celtic's the big problem. they're the ones you'd have to convince.
They wouldn't survive because, like you said, they'd have to start out like FC United did in like tier 10 or whatever it was. And there's no way that they'd remain getting 30, 40,000 a week, keeping players like Eduard up front at the moment, who looks like their top player, looks like the next Dembele who'll be picked up again soon. It won't happen. But I don't know, a hypothetical one season where they join the English League for 1 year, I think it'd be quality.
Well, imagine if they combined the cup. So the Scottish.
I think they should. I think we should have a British Cup.
Yeah, that'd be.
Now that I can see that working. I could see that if anything's going to happen, that for me would be the first step, possibly.
Yeah.
There is already a cup which involves the Welsh teams and the Scottish teams. I don't know what it's called now, but there is like an Iron Brew Cup or something like that.
Like the Checker Trade Trophy or something like that.
Yeah.
Iron Brew Cup.
I'm sure it was called that, honestly, because I went.
That was the Scottish version.
I went and watched. Well, I know it was definitely Connors Quay Nomads against Ross County in the final, but I think it was Connors Quay against Inverness that I watched. I went and watched the semi-final of it. So yeah, there is sort of like two nations already in a cup. We just need to involve the English clubs.
I'd quite like to see the Scottish teams in like the FA Cup or something.
Yeah. But only the good ones.
I think that's a good idea. You know?
Well, the thing is, there's so many levels to the FA Cup where everyone can have a cup run. Like theoretically, Hyde United or Stockport County could have an amazing cup run because there's that many qualifiers. So you can just throw all that DOS, like Hibs and Aberdeen, and everything below it into the lower qualifiers and bring Celtic in round 2 or round 3 like they do with the big teams in England.
Yeah.
Well, here's one for you. No one gives a shit about the Carabao. Why don't we just why not make the Carabao a UK tournament? Get Northern Ireland teams involved, get the Welsh teams involved, get the Scottish teams involved. Get people to care about it again.
The only way I could see that happening though is if they had like regional bits first. And then you've got to win your regional bit to go through to the main, because otherwise there's just too many teams. There'd be fucking hundreds.
I mean, the joke of the fucking Carabao Cup is that Premier League teams put their under 23 teams in it as well.
Yeah.
So it's clearly a trophy that no one gives a toss about. So yeah, do regional qualifiers, get rid of the under 23s and whatever, and then bring in, like you said, the Scottish, Northern Irish, and Welsh teams. Let's just have a big UK party. I'm sure, and Carabao would fucking love it.
Yeah.
Imagine if they've now got all the eyes of Scotland on it as well, and Wales on their product. Carabao, this drinks company that no one gives a toss about, but everyone only knows them because they sponsor a tournament.
Who's bought a can of Carabao?
Danny wants it to be the Monster Cup.
Hey, make that the Monster Zero Cup, and I'm going to every single game.
Danny's little rant at the start of the fucking chat. If you made it the White Monster Cup, he'd just be like, that's always been the one trophy I wanted to win as a United fan. There.
Carabao Iron Brew flavour, and the Scottish are there. Just a little collaboration between the two.
The Iron Brew Cup, I love that. And then today in the Haggis Cup.
Scotland's the only country in the world, I think, where Coca-Cola isn't the number one sold drink because it is Iron Brew. I'm pretty sure. Also, another weird fact, I work with a Scottish lady, so this is why I know all this. Do you know that the national animal of Scotland is a unicorn?
Of course it is.
Official.
Why wouldn't it be?
That's because Scotland's a myth.
I'll tell you what, how sick is Glasgow, though?
Oh, we're never taking off, are we, boys? We're just slandering every opportunity.
It sounds like I'm being really disrespectful, like what I've said about Celtic and Rangers. I love Scotland. I think it's a fantastic.
I was just saying, Glasgow was amazing.
Glasgow's a great city. Edinburgh's
Aberdeen's
a fantastic city.
I went to Aberdeen a few years ago, and it was unbelievable up there. And I went to watch a game, and it was awesome. Like the atmosphere is outstanding there. Like their fans, I think the Scottish fans have got to be some of the most passionate in the world. And I feel sorry for them because they're watching shit, but it's their shit.
Yeah. Well, I heard someone on TalkSport the other day say...
You two are just dying at that. It is, though. It is a poor standard of football. You've just said it, that Rangers and Celtic wouldn't make it in the Premier League. Therefore, the standard is wank. If the two best teams in their league would not make it in our league, their football is shite. But it's their shite, and they love it, and they are so passionate. Some of them bleed the colours of their club.
Yeah. Do you remember that clip a few years? I can't remember when it happened, what season. That clip of that Scottish football game where there's just like 75 headers back and forth, and the ball just doesn't touch the fucking floor for like 5 solid minutes. And I actually watched it all the way through once, and I thought, what the fuck am I watching it?
Conference.
It is just dog shit. It really is. And some of the players,
the fans love it.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit obviously English centric, and even to the point it shocked me the other day. I was listening to Talk Sport, and they were talking about the Celtic Rangers stuff that's been going on, plus also Celtic's issues with their player Bolingoli today, and they had this guy on, and he literally goes, "Oh yeah, you see, I know a lot about Scottish football because it's all the." Oh, sorry, it was fucking Rod Stewart. So Rod Stewart was on.
Rob, why did you forget that?
I don't know. He just come up to me now because I remember thinking he loves his loves getting on TV and radio, doesn't he? At least he hadn't had a drink this time, but yeah, he was on, and he basically said, "Oh, you see, I know loads about Scottish football. It's all I love. It's all I care about. I'm not asked about the Premier League or anything. I don't watch any of that. I just purely watch Scottish football." And I was sat there thinking, how boring is that? But then I was thinking, well, no, he's Scottish, and that's where he's born, and that's his country's league. So it's only the same. Someone only watching the La Liga in Spain, or someone only watching Ligue 1 in France.
It's like me going to Stockport County all the time.
Dales has been looking at us this entire time. I can see him just wanting to blurt out, lads, Scottish football is fucking wank.
Couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, just I was just been waiting for us to move on, to be honest.
Not getting involved. Just going to wait for you all to shut the fuck.
I feel like if you're in a team in Scotland other than Celtic and Rangers, that's how you feel at the start of every season. Just waiting for it to be over, lads.
Yeah.
Also, some of the fucking, before we fucking cut off in a second, some of the fucking team names: Inverness Caledonian Thistle, A-Board, change the name.
Stenhouse Muir.
How did you say that?
Stenhouse Muir. Unreal.
Cowden Beef? Huh?
Cowden Beast.
Oh, I'm done. I'm out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the podcast. To support us, please follow us on social media by searching for @4manx1toffee on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. You can also subscribe to the podcast on all major podcast stations, including Spotify, Google and Apple Podcasts and Anchor, as well as YouTube. Just search for 4manx1toffee. Thanks from myself, Lee, Danny, Dale and Josh, and we'll catch you next time.